And welcome to the episode of Earnestly Podcast. I'm your host, Earnest, EJ Christian, coming to you this week. We're going to try something new this time on the podcast. We're going to start recording these segments separately throughout the week, as long as they're evergreen, of course, and we'll just put up the podcasts probably, say, beginning of the week, Sunday-ish, Monday, depending on how things work out. Now, obviously, you guys know I don't necessarily stick to things in the same way because things always change, and things are always ever changing with schedules and priorities. But I'm trying to do this because, as you know, my time to record is limited, as it is anyway. And when I try to record, at the time I do have to record, I have other obligations already. Doing at least a solo podcast, I'm saying it's harder to do in the same way because, like I said, I have limited time and. You want to be serve all masters in terms of like make sure you have content for this show and time for this show and this whatnot. And this, even this solo podcast, as easy as it looks and sounds, like it takes a little while to put together. Even just doing one show in general, even if it's a half an hour recording, will take about an hour of time, and that's an hour of time that I don't have with my family. So I'm trying to find ways to how can I stick with this in a way where I'm still putting out good content, for this show, especially Earnestly Podcast, which is the flagship show of this network. And I think the way I may look into doing it right now, I'm going to try this now, see how this goes the rest of the week and moving forward, is to probably record segments for the show throughout the week, when I get time to do it. And then record, 4 or 5 segments throughout the week, and then put out the show as one big episode. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see if it works. Because I've always thought about doing that in the past too, but... now that the schedule is tightened up a little bit too and other things going on, I want to see if this actually works. So anyway, today's show, I'm going to talk about I'm missing football already. My lost interest in the NBA All-Star Game. I will also finally address the Joe Rogan controversy that I've been really avoiding talking about the last couple weeks on the show. And then I'm actually going to talk about some of the things I've been watching as of late. Like I've been actually getting to a lot of content recently. And I want to share that with you guys and recommend some things for you guys. So enjoy this episode of the podcast. So we're 1 week removed from football season. Exactly 1 week from the end of the Super Bowl. Of course, the Rams won the game. Rams are Super Bowl champions. I'm not going to elaborate on a big football thing here because I do record a podcast, which we do on this network. Football's awesome, with Kyle Nash on this past Tuesday. So check it out in the archives. And I gotta tell you, for the first time probably in a very long time, and maybe it was because the kind of year we had, it was a fun football year, it was an excellent season, but I'm actually missing football a lot right now. And that may shock some at some degree that may know me because of the fact that, yes, I love football, but, normally football ends, okay, good, I can focus now 100% on basketball, and I'm a basketball NBA junkie, so that's not a big deal there. But it's weird because the last couple of years, I've said this a couple times, that, I felt like my love for football in recent years, it kind of waned a little bit. Not because of politics, just because in general, the rule changes, and I think also too lifestyle. You have a family, you got a husband, you got a wife and the kids, and I'm a husband and my father, and I got pets, and I got a job, and I do this podcast network too on top of that. So a lot of my time is taken away, so I don't have a chance to get into the, whereas years ago when I was able to sit and watch NFL Network 24 hours a day, or, play Madden, or watch YouTube and football stuff all the time. When I started doing this podcast and other podcasts, and I started adding more to my plate, both personally and professionally, certain things started to take a back seat. And not just football, but certainly football was one of those things that, in the last couple of years, I guess my passion for football waned a little bit. I don't, I still love football, but I think it's a point for recently where, okay, I watch the 1 o'clock games. by 4 o'clock, the second batch of games, I would check out because I had to put the kids to bathe and dinner and all that. Unless the Giants are on, I used to be that football fan that would watch every single game or be intent to every single game. And then recent years, I would have watched every Sunday football game, would have watched every single Monday football game for whatever reasons, whether it be schedules or priorities and things of that nature. But this year was different. This year felt different. This year, I think also COVID made me appreciate things to some degree. I know from my case that, having football without fans last year for a good portion of last year, getting back to normal in terms of fans back in the stands, that helped. And let's be real, we had a fantastic season. We had a lot of really cool storylines this year. And it played out in the Super Bowl this year. You had the Rams who bought in, went all in for the trips in to get Matthew Stafford and this and that. You had the Bengals who were, most people put them to be last in the North, AFC North this year because of that division, how good it was on paper. Steelers, Browns, and Ravens, and the Bengals win the division. Then they run the table through the AFC playoffs, beat the Raiders, beat the Titans, beat the Chiefs, go to the Super Bowl, have a chance of winning the game last week. And that culminated a year that I thought was fantastic. We had a lot of great games, great stuff, great, new stars, and, it was a fun year. It was the first year for me, honestly, in, I would dare say at least 5 or 6 years where I felt invested back in football. You guys heard this podcast for years, last couple of years. I stopped, this show became more about when I used to be able to, in the past, I would have like more people on the show to talk about football, for example. And then I became more variety based, and it still is variety based to some degree. Obviously now we're doing kind of a network thing now. But I didn't, go into deep dives every week about football in recent years. I just check in a couple weeks. I enjoyed the season so much that 2-3 weeks in, I decided to start a football show on this feed. Football's awesome because I wanted to get back to doing the power rankings and the picks and all that. I was excited, and then the season played out, in that way. And that's saying a lot for me too, because I'm a New York Giants fan, and we stunk this year again. 10 years ago, that Super Bowl, 1 playoff appearance. But it was a very fun year, and it played out in that way. I'm missing football. I'm missing some football so bad now that I've actually started watching old games. This week alone, like last night, I watched Super Bowl 24, Broncos and Niners. Joe Rogan was a beast. He was a beast. I watched an old Giants Saints game from '93. I watched an old Giants Niners playoff game from 87, 86. I've got to that place where where I'm actually missing football now, and it's weird. It's just weird. I'm back in that place again. You still have the draft coming up, and you have free agency, and obviously we'll talk about those things on the Football is Awesome podcast. But I think my passion for football has returned. Because for the first time in 5 or 6 years, I'm actually, dare I say, invested again, like heavy. Instead of being, closer to casual, I'm back to being that, okay. I'm back into like wanting to really be into it week to week now in a way where I used to be. It's a great year. I missed it. I miss it. I miss it already. 1 week out. And like I said, it's not to say that I don't enjoy basketball, obviously, and it's been a decent basketball season. But my wife, my wife actually doesn't agree with me. She actually disagrees with me on that. I always tell her, and this is true, I am a bigger NBA fan than NFL fan. She'll say, yeah, that's not the case because you don't show it. I go, the reason it's hard to show it because the reason why it's hard to show that is because the NBA, there's 82 games in the season. So you can't get too high and too low with every single game because not every game matters the same way in the NFL. The NFL is now 17 games in the NFL. every loss is magnified. Every win is magnified because it's only 17 games. And even when you add the extra playoff spots, it's still meaningful. It matters. One game can separate you from home field advantage to missing the playoffs. And that could be your trek to the Super Bowl. So the games matter more in the NFL because it's less games and it's more impactful. So that's probably why also. And football's also a one game a week. Whereas the NBA, you'll get 3-4 games to the same team a week. As much as 4 games a week. I love the Giants once a week. I love the Heat. They play 2, 3, 4 games a week. It's hard to maintain that. Now, NBA playoffs, I'm definitely even more bought in. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I got League Pass. I watch all the games. I watch those games I can. But it's different. You can't compare the two. Football in general, because it's less games, it's way more impactful, which means every game matters more. So there's more passion towards that. Like, you start 0-1, 0-2, you're in the hole. 0-2 in the NBA is nothing. You can ride a 4-game winning streak out the gate the very next week and you're 4-5-2. If you're 0-2 out the game in the NFL, your season could be over already. Depending on how things play out. So, yeah, it's been a rough week. Missing football. So, on the next one. Speaking of NBA, we are actually, as this recording, right in the middle of NBA All-Star Weekend. I gotta be honest with you. As I said, I love the NBA. I love the whole nine. But I don't think I watch an NBA All-Star festivities. Forget the game itself. I don't enjoy the game. And this goes to any sport. All All-Star games, Pro Bowl, NFL, NBA included, NHL, you name it. No interest. It's no interest. And to be honest, the players themselves don't have much interest themselves. They don't. A lot of these guys half-ass it, which is, I get it. I totally get it. I used to be more into when I was younger. Obviously, when you're a kid, you don't understand those things. You don't really look at the totality. You see, okay, basketball, cool, let's watch it. Your world's different. You don't have to worry about bills and taking kids to school and karate class and all these things and marriages and date nights and you're a kid, you don't care about that kind of stuff. So you're not gonna be bothered. You see that's content. And that was me as a kid. All-Star Game was another thing I used to watch in the game. But I just haven't been into it. It's been about 10 years since I actually watched the All-Star Game, and it's honestly the festivities I've not really been into it. And then I go on Twitter last night and everyone's complaining about the dunk contest. It was crappy apparently. Why are you surprised? The dunk contest hasn't been anything. The last time dunk contest was actually great was probably I'll give you the late 2000s because even Blake Griffin and Dwight Howard when they were doing their thing back in the mid to late 2000s. I'll admit those were fun. I'll admit those were enjoyable. But the real great dunk contests were in the 80s with Neek and Dominique Wilkins and Michael Jordan, and in the early 90s with Harold Miner and D Brown and all those guys. By the way, my kids upstairs screaming, so you hear those kids in the background. They're upstairs, playing around. But it hasn't been the same. The only and to be honest with you, I've never really been a huge fan of the dunk contest anyway. I've always been bigger fan of the 3-point contest. I'm a 3-point contest nerd. Craig Hodges, Larry Bird, of course, and I'm a shooter anyway, so. But yeah, I don't know why people are surprised that the dunk contest has been underwhelming because it's not good anymore. And not only that, every dunk has been done. The creativity there's not much creativity left with it now. I mean, honestly, the NBA is better off having guys off the streets, and one guys and guys who are not in the NBA come in and do the contest. Because the creativity really still left is on the streets, not in the NBA. It's a bad thing when LeBron James, who was one of the better dunkers in league history, has not ever participate in this competition, which I think is disappointing, to be honest with you, in the end. But whatever. Sure, like at least early in his career, I would like to see him do it a couple times. Then again, maybe because the Joe Rogan comparisons, maybe I don't know. But I mean, the All-Star festivities in general, like I might maybe I might turn it on tonight, maybe, but it'll be background noise. You know what I'm saying? It'll be background noise. I look at the All-Star break now as a way to reset, take a break from sports. Years ago, I hated it because you had to wait 4 days for another game. Come on, and in fact, even recent years, they've actually increased the amount of between games. It's actually a whole week now. Last game was on Thursday, this past Thursday. First game back will be next Thursday. But I guess as an adult, I can appreciate that absence goes fonder kind of mentality, But I don't know why anybody's surprised that the All-Star game in general is just no one cares, because no one cares because the players don't care either. It's just a hangout at the end of the day. And again, I'm not criticizing it. I think that's cool, because I think that's what it should be. People talk about with the NFL Pro Bowl, like we should change the Pro Bowl, do this. There's nothing to change. The Pro Bowl is what it is. Leave it as be. They still get good ratings considering how bad the Pro Bowl is and always has been. These are just glorified exhibition games, and nothing more, nothing less. It's a celebration of the sport. That's it. There's no need to fix anything with the All-Star game. No need to fix anything with the Pro Bowl or even baseball All-Star game. There's something to fix. It just is what it is. Let's leave it alone. So, I may watch tonight a little bit just to check in and see what they're doing. But do I care in a grander scheme? No, because it doesn't matter. It's just an exhibition game. Not everything has to matter. Sometimes it's okay to have fun games in the background. And you know what? I might still watch it just cause. But this called for what it is. A over-glorified hangout / exhibition game. That's it. It's a celebration of the sport. And I'm okay with that. Just be honest with yourselves about it. So, next one. Okay, so let's finally address the thing I put off for 3 weeks now or whatever to discuss. The Joe Rogan controversy that I've touched on some degree on social media. I've not really gone to deep dive on it because there's a lot of folks who get in their feelings when I talk about these things, and there's a lot of folks who I'm friends with that don't like some of my views on this, and that's fine. We are allowed to disagree. I think it's an underrated trait to still engage in good conversation even if we don't agree with each other. I think it's a lost art. It doesn't have to be that if I don't agree with you on things, we can't be friends. Now, there are certain things I will not, if you're a racist, for example, and you are an oppressor, and you're trying to prevent me or people of my persuasion, or whatever you call that, color, or whatever, to advance, that's one thing. But if we're going to disagree on pizza, on certain political views, there should be enough space to respect the opinion and move forward. I've always said that I have way more, I won't say fun, but I enjoy discussing politics and the world at large with people I disagree with more than the ones I agree with. Because, at least from my angle anyway, I can't speak for the other source on this, but I know from my point of view, when I talk to someone about life or about politics or about things, or just the way they look at the world versus the way I look at the world, going into that conversation, I know for myself, I am genuinely trying to get their perspective, why they feel this way. I like to hope that the person I'm engaging with is also trying to do the same from my point of view. And then we come to a solution, we come to an agreement or disagreement or whatever, And I think this Joe Rogan controversy kind of has some of that in there. because this is the idea that Joe Rogan's being canceled. But for the record, that's not going to happen because, despite what the media says, there are more people that support Joe Rogan and don't support Joe Rogan. And the thing is, it's not just one side of the aisle doing that. There's a lot of people who are on the left side of the aisle that may not like some things he says, but they thinks it's his right to say what he says. I'm one of those people who believes that some of the things he says are great, some things he says are stupid. But he has the right to an opinion. He's not saying he's opening up a platform for people to come on. And for the record, for the people who are so mad about Joe Rogan, what he's been saying about the COVID stuff and of course the things that came out about him saying the N-word years ago, which we'll get to that in a second because I have an opinion on that. The folks about his position on COVID, he believes that COVID exists. He's having conversation with people, scientists, which we can figure out whether they're real scientists or not, whatever. I haven't listened to those episodes, so I'm not going to speak on that. But I know a lot of the outrage stems from the COVID, his stance on whether or not the vaccines are good enough and all that. He's allowed that opinion. You guys listen to this podcast for the last couple of years. You've heard my opinion on the vaccine. I am vaccinated, but you do guys remember that before I got vaccinated, that the months prior to that, I did have some concerns about the vaccinations. But of course, like I've said since then, was the way to handle that like an adult is to go talk to your doctor or someone of knowledge, that kind of stuff, and get better information from them as opposed to people who are on YouTube or on social media trying to push an agenda. And it's not like Joe Rogan has on right-wing people and this and that. Joe Rogan has on many people. I've always said for a long time, too, especially that, I'm not a conservative, but one of the things I respect conservatives, what they do, is that most of them anyway, and I say all, but a lot of them anyway, are willing to go on left-leaning platforms to talk. I'm a fan of discourse. I'm a fan of having conversations with people you disagree with. Because this is a big country, this is a big world. We're all going to share. We all don't have the same views. We all have to share this world. How else do things get done? You know what I'm saying? So, to me, this is less about defending Joe Rogan and more about free speech, anti-cancel culture. And look, people are going to hear this, so I'm saying that in this segment, they're going to hear what I'm saying, and they're going to think I'm crazy for saying it. And that's fine. You have a heavy right to opinion. I may not like how you think about that, but I will defend your right to say it or to think that way. But I didn't cancel Joe Rogan. First of all, let's stop real quick with the right, because the right does a lot too. He's not getting canceled. Yes, there are probably people trying to cancel him. He's not getting canceled. He's too big at this point now to get canceled. But this is less about defending Joe Rogan and more about free speech and just, people being in their political bunker. Like, get out of your political bunker, dude. Like, this goes to Republican, Democrat, Independent, or whatever it may be. Doesn't mean you're beholden to that. You're allowed to think for yourself. And if there are people who disagree with Joe Rogan about what he's saying, he has said he's invited people with his opinion on the situation to come on the podcast. So let's stop that noise. Also, I believe this is a political hit job anyway. Because the thing with him saying the N-word and that, and yes, he apologized for it. People may want to accept the apology or whatever. What he said was wrong, obviously. What he said was wrong. I'm a black man saying that, so what he said was wrong. But let's not act like this is something new. The reason why I'm upset about this, and I'm not even defending Joe Rogan here, is those comments he said that's been coming out public now, those comments aren't new. And what I'm saying is, those clips, I and others, I know for a fact, have seen those clips for at least 5 or 6 years. And nobody gave a rip about it. This is the thing. We decided to be outraged now because of the situation with COVID. Oh, now we outraged by the N-word, but the thing is, no one gave a fuck about it before. No one cared before. 5, 6 years. So you tell me 5, 6 years. It was 5, 6 years ago. Wasn't a problem, and now it's a problem now because of the political angle towards it. Like, stop. My pushback is the disingenuous nature of people's anger. Because these comments were out there for 5 or 6 years and no one gave a shit about it. That's where my anger is at. That's where I'm displeased at. Is that this situation, this particular thing, but him saying the word, which is already out in public, no one had outraged about it 5, 6 years ago. Oh, but now it's a problem? If it's a problem today, it should have been a problem 5, 6 years ago. And again, that's why I get on a lot of people about fake outrage and all that. Because a lot of it comes off as fake. Because there's an agenda behind it. So, I don't want to get too deep into it. I did see Netflix ordered 4 more Dave Chappelle shows. Cancel my ass. Chappelle ain't going anywhere, man. You know, free speech is important to us. Like, we disagree on a lot of things. But I am still a First Amendment absolutist. You know, I mean, I like the things you have to say. Let the market dictate that. Let the market dictate that. If you want to be an asshole and hurt yourself and say certain things, you'll hurt yourself through the market. That's what I say about that. So, anyway, let's go on to the next thing. All right, last topic here. Last thing to talk about on this week's Earnestly podcast. And again, guys, thanks for checking in. I'm trying this new format. We're going to try to do this. I think when I do a solo podcast, like I said, I think I'll just do topics throughout the week, record them, and then put together at the end of the week. It seems like the best day to probably put this out on Sundays and Mondays. You know? Because I, you know, with this doing the Earnestly Podcast Network now, having football's awesome. Which now is a little bit of a break now because football's over, but you'll have still episodes probably in a couple of weeks for free agency and obviously for the draft and maybe some special episodes. But you also now have in the paint the basketball show I started doing last month will be front and center every week at least, hopefully every week anyway. You know, obviously Take 3 Wrestling is every Thursday, every Thursday night. That's dropped Friday morning. That's me, Mike, and Joe. That's fun times. But I also have a new concept I'm going to be announcing very soon. So it's going to be related to pop culture and music and things of that nature. But I'm going to try this out, see how this works. At least for the solo pods, record these separately. You know, I'll find topics all about through the week, and that's evergreen, and then pull it together right in the week, and then just put it out probably Sunday. We'll see. Maybe I'll change the day. We'll see what happens. But it seems like Sunday might be a good day. What I want to do is actually spread out the material a little bit too. If I put the show out on Sunday/Monday, you know, football's awesome / in the paint, whatever I do, you know, put them out Tuesday, Wednesday. Take 3 comes out Friday because I record late night Thursday night, you know, and then whatever we put around that, you know, unfiltered will be random reaction, you know, that kind of things. You know, and of course, now if we do guests, obviously, or speaking podcast, we have guests. That'd be different too. That'd be you know, obviously the way it's done. But at least for the solo podcast, I think it's easier because it's hard for me to get time to go into the studio to do one full episode, even a solo episode. That takes about easily an hour of my time because between recording, between editing, possibly editing, publishing, promoting, it's at a minimum an hour. And time is a little bit of the essence now, you know, as I said, with the family and all that. It's harder. So, all right. Anyway, to the last topic here now. So, first solo pod I've done in weeks. And a lot of things I've been watching lately. One of the things I've been doing, I've really been starting to, as football came to an end in the last few weeks and all that, I started to watch more material behind on things I need to watch. So, for example, I watched the Janet Jackson documentary a couple weeks ago. I thought it was really good. Obviously, it's her perspective, so you take what you can from that. I actually wanted to do a episode with a friend of mine, music publisher of mine, and writer rather, and get his perspective. And hopefully, we'll still do that. But I enjoyed the documentary. That was really good. I thought it showed a side of her that many probably did not know. She talked a lot about her, obviously Michael, her brother, and the greatest, my goat, obviously. She talked about a little bit about growing up, and obviously the thing I was really wanted to hear from her about, outside of course the Michael stuff, was her perspective from the Super Bowl malfunction and her reaction to it and how she felt and what she went through with that. I thought it was a good documentary. I would have liked to have had it on another platform. It was on Lifetime. I thought maybe she put it on Netflix or Hulu. A little more edgier, but I think it did its job. I got into a little deep dive of Janet Jackson music again in recent weeks. I've always been a fan of hers, but I've noticed I haven't watched any of her or listened to any of her music in a big way in quite a while. To be fair, I don't listen to a lot of music much like I used to, unless it's the usual artists, and also I listen to more podcasts now than to the music anyway, so it's tougher. But that was one thing I watched in the last couple of weeks. What else did I watch this week? I also watched a Tom Brady documentary on ESPN Plus, Man in the Arena. 9 parts right now. I think there's a 10th part coming too, also, because obviously the part 9 ends at where I don't think he left New England yet. He was entering this final year in New England. So you still have New England, final year in New England. You still have the 2 years in Tampa. Gotham Chopra was the maker of this. Done a fantastic job. And I love the way it was done too, in terms of, every episode went through like a championship season or a major challenge. Like episode 1 was his intro into the NFL. Episode 2 was his first title, I believe. And what they would do in every episode, they would have my kids are loud. They would have like different characters. He's the main character of each episode, but you'll have like Lori Malloy and Ronnie Harris on one episode. No, don't quote me on that exactly what episode they were on. You have Michael Strahan on an episode where the Giants beat the Patriots, unbeaten Patriots in 2007. Which, by the way, Giants fan here. My favorite episode of the entire thing. You have an episode also where I think Eli Manning was in the second Giants loss episode, I believe. I want to say Eli was there. And what I love about the documentary too was very honest. It was very, like, you see Tom Brady in a way we've never seen before. Very open. He's cursing. I remember he was saying "fuck the Giants" and all that, which was great. I thought it was great. One episode with his sisters on there when he went through the Deflategate thing. And one episode with his wife Giselle. One episode with the way it was broken down. And it goes in chronological order too, especially. It was really well done. I enjoyed it. I recommend Man in the Arena on ESPN Plus. Tom Brady is, like I said, it's 9 parts right now. I believe there's another part, or even 2, coming up in the next month or so. I think I heard something about them doing another episode in the spring. So that's probably going to tackle the last year in New England and the Tampa years, probably, I guess. What else did I watch recently too? Oh, on Peacock, I watched the Joe Montana documentary on Peacock. Man, I watched Montana since last year in San Francisco and his, then into 2 years in Kansas City. Obviously how great he is, but to watch the documentary, and I haven't seen anything on Montana in a while. Like you're reminded how great this guy was, man. The only reason I give Brady 1 and Montana 2 is on longevity. Like they have similar careers. But Brady's a lot longer. So Montana, to me, Brady wins the argument based on longevity. 22 years in the league. Montana, but the short 12, 13 years Montana played, a lot was hurt, a lot was injuries too. But the short period he played, man, there's no peers to him. He was that great. Like I said, their careers are very, very similar. Just in terms of, whereas Montana was a shorter version of that, Brady was a longer version of that. Like, yeah, Montana won his first ring in second year in the league, just like Brady. Both were drafted. Well, Brady was drafted much later in I think, 6th round, Montana 3rd round. Montana started a year on the bench, first on the bench. Brady as well too. Both win 2 Super Bowls pretty much in the first couple of years of being in the league, and then they go to a little lull. Well, Brady's lull was a little longer. Then Montana was back to back. Brady went back to back also in his front end of his first two rings. Both guys leave their teams, go to another team. Montana was very close to going to the Super Bowl and possibly winning one in Kansas City in his first year there. Brady actually won the Super Bowl his first year in Tampa Bay. There's a lot of similarities to these two guys, and like I said, talent-wise, I'll give it to Montana because Montana was actually a lot. I sometimes forget this. Like Montana was actually a lot more mobile than we give credit for. He knew how to move pocket. He knew how to get out of the pocket. He knew how to, be creative and stuff. Brady obviously was more a stick figure, was kind of a statue, but he also knew how to move pocket, given limited ability he had. But man, that Montana was great. Another one in chronological order. He was in it. Nice guest on there too. It's on Peacock. Check it out as well too. I think it's called Montana the Comeback Kid, I believe. What else did I watch recently? Oh, on ESPN Plus also last night. So my wife went out with her best friends, and I came home from work. I was tired. I wanted to come home and relax. The kids were asleep. So I decided to watch some documentaries. And, I kind of last couple of years, I've fallen behind on 30 for 30 documentaries on ESPN. So I decided to watch the old Madden one they did. There's actually what I understand is a few John Madden documentaries that came out in the last couple months since his passing in late December. But this one I watched on ESPN Plus. This is about an hour and 20 minutes long. Very good documentary on John Madden, breaking down his career, people guest on there, and people, extolling his virtues towards him and whatnot. He was in it too as well. Fantastic documentary on John Madden. Man, God, that's another guy that, as I was saying earlier in the podcast, I've been watching older games and stuff as of late, because I've been to football. Pretty much most of the games I've been watching has been with John Madden in commentary with Pat Summerall. Man, that is, to me, the greatest announcing team in the history of sports. No one competes. Like, I might do a Mount Rushmore or a top 10 greatest play-by-play commentary teams on a podcast on the road. But I'm telling you right now, spoiler alert, number one is Pat Summerall and John Madden. Just tell you right now, those guys were just, they were fantastic. Even Madden with Al Michaels was great. And I love Al Michaels, but Summerall and Madden, there was something about that synergy, the voice. And the thing was, they weren't flashy. They just did their thing. Pat Summerall knew how to lay back, and it was the voice, and he had that golden voice. John Madden knew when to come in and, with the telestrator and all this stuff. It was, oh my gosh, it was so great. So great. And that documentary, I'm gonna watch it, try to find the other one too. I think there was 2 or 3 they had on there. From my understanding, they had one on Peacock as well too, I think. I gotta check it out. There's also one on Fox, which I gotta watch on Hulu as well, which I'll probably watch after I finish recording this podcast today. So then you have the Madden documentary, you have the, Brady, the Janet Jackson. What else am I missing? Anything else I'm missing here? Let me see. Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's all the stuff I've watched so far recently. And I'm really getting into content again, like watching, because a lot of my time, especially during the fall, is devoted to podcasting. Aside from, watching wrestling and day-to-day week wrestling, which I've fallen way behind on and whatnot. But this time of year now, I have time to watch stuff. I know my brother-in-law has been telling me to watch this Formula One documentary on Netflix. He's been pushing me to watch that for freaking months now. I need to watch that. So, but I'm trying to get a couple content. The last shows I want to watch too, especially. And, with the launch of the new concept podcast I'm going to throw on this feed very soon, that may merge into me and my wife, or me and a couple of people reviewing shows and documentaries also too. So, but yeah, those are the things I watched so far, and all these things, like I said, recommend it. It's excellent content. And now we'll do this episode of the Rich Podcast. We're going to try, like I said, we're going to try this. solo once a week. I'm gonna try to drop these on Sundays or Mondays. Record podcasts segments throughout the week, put all together. Hopefully it's all evergreen, put together and whatnot, and go from there. We'll see how it goes. Maybe I'll stick to it, maybe I won't. We'll see. I'm just trying to figure out to schedule the consistent content like this show and Take 3, obviously every Thursday, Friday, and obviously either football's also in the paint through the week. So we'll figure it out. But I'm on Twitter at EJChristian7, Earnestly Media. You can subscribe on my YouTube. Subscribe also on any podcast catcher. Subscribe to the Earnestly Podcast Network on any podcast catcher. We are doing all the shows on one stream. We got, like I said, we got a new content coming very soon. We have obviously this show. We have Take 3, In the Paint, Football's Awesome, Unfiltered, and other things. So enjoy. Like I said, hope you guys enjoy the content. Having a great time recording, doing this, and until the next one, we'll talk soon. Later, guys.